The Velothi had ruled the galaxy for 8,000 years. Their massive bioships drifted through space like living mountains, powered by organic fusion cores that pulsed with green light. Admiral Corvin Zell stood in the command chamber of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching distant stars through walls of living crystal. His species had evolved beyond the need for metal ships or crude technology. Everything they touched became part of their empire, absorbed into their living fleet. Captain Marcus Steele had never seen anything like the alien vessels that surrounded his exploration ship, the Pioneer's Dream. The human vessel looked tiny, next to the massive organic structures that seemed to breathe in the vacuum of space. His navigator, Lieutenant Rebecca Hart, checked her instruments with growing concern. Their energy readings were impossible. These ships were generating power on the scale of small stars. Chief Engineer Tommy Martinez worked frantically at his console as strange tendrils of energy began probing their hull. The alien technology was trying to interface with their systems, but human computers were built differently. While the Velothi expected all technology to be biological and cooperative, human machines were stubborn chunks of metal and silicon that refused alien commands. Communications Officer Janet Rivers tried every frequency she knew, sending peaceful greetings in 12 human languages. The response came as pure thought, projected directly into their minds. The voice was ancient and proud, speaking with the certainty of a species that had never been challenged. "Small creatures in your metal shell," the mental voice declared. "You will join the collective. Your primitive technology will be absorbed. Your biological distinctiveness will enhance our perfection. Resistance is meaningless." Captain Steele felt his crew's fear through the ship's intercom system. They were explorers, not warriors. The Pioneer's Dream carried scientific equipment and peaceful intentions, not weapons designed to fight living spaceships the size of cities. But humans had one advantage the Velothi couldn't understand. They were unpredictable. The Velothi had conquered every species they encountered through the same method. Their bioships would surround enemy vessels, interface with their technology, and absorb both ship and crew into the collective. It had worked perfectly for millennia because every species they met used technology similar to their own, organic, cooperative, and designed to work in harmony. Human technology was different. It was built by a species that had learned to fight nature rather than join it. Human machines were independent, isolated, and protected by layers of security that made no sense to beings who shared consciousness across their entire civilization. When the Velothi biotendrils tried to penetrate the Pioneer's systems, they encountered firewalls, encryption, and human stubbornness coded into every circuit. The alien tendrils recoiled like living things touching something poisonous. For the first time in 8,000 years, the Velothi collective experienced something completely unexpected: failure. Admiral Corvin Zell felt confusion ripple through the shared consciousness of his species. These creatures were resisting absorption. Their technology was crude but incompatible with Velothi systems. This had never happened before. The implications were disturbing. Captain Steele saw his chance and took it. The moment the alien biotendrils pulled back from his ship, Captain Steele shouted orders that would echo through human history. Lieutenant Hart engaged the hyperspace drive, while Chief Martinez rerouted all power to the engines. The Pioneer's Dream vanished into hyperspace just as massive Velothi vessels converged on their position, leaving the aliens staring at empty space where their prey had been. Admiral Corvin Zell experienced something the Velothi had forgotten: surprise. No species had ever escaped the collective's embrace. His bioship's living computers analyzed the event, trying to understand how such primitive creatures had evaded capture. The humans used crude, faster-than-light travel that tore holes in space rather than flowing with natural hyperspace currents. It was violent, inefficient, and completely unexpected. The Velathi began their pursuit immediately. Bioships flowed through hyperspace like schools of luminous fish, following the human vessel's energy trail across the galaxy. But human hyperspace technology left a chaotic wake that was difficult to track. Where Velathi ships moved in harmony with cosmic forces, human drives punched through reality with brute force, creating turbulence that masked their destination. Captain Steele pushed his ship beyond safe limits as they raced toward Earth. The pioneer's dream shuddered with each hyperspace jump, but human engineering was built to handle abuse. Martinez kept the engines running through sheer determination and creative cursing, while Hart plotted jump routes that would confuse their pursuers. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Patricia Wang received Steele's emergency transmission with growing alarm. The message described alien vessels of impossible size and technology that treated entire species as resources to be harvested. Humanity's first contact with alien intelligence had revealed something terrifying. They were not alone in the universe, and they were not welcome. President David Morrison called an emergency session of the Terran Defense Council. Military leaders from across the solar system gathered in the Lunar Command Center, studying Steele's sensor data with disbelief. General Frank Hayes commanded Earth's modest defense fleet, but his ships were designed to patrol trade routes and asteroid mining operations, not fight living vessels the size of mountains. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, humanity's leading xenobiologist, analyzed the Velathi biosignatures with fascination and horror. These aliens had achieved something humans had only dreamed of, perfect integration between biology and technology. But they used this power to consume other species, adding their knowledge and capabilities to an ever-growing collective consciousness. The Velathi pursuit fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a plague of living ships. Dozens of biovessels drifted toward Earth's outer planets, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of ancient power. Admiral Corvin Zell transmitted his ultimatum on all frequencies, confident that these primitive creatures would see reason. Inhabitants of this system, his mental voice projected across space, you have harbored the small vessel that fled our. Embrace. This system will be absorbed into the collective. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will enhance our perfection. Prepare for integration. Fleet Admiral Wang stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Terran Defender, watching the alien armada approach. Her ships were outnumbered 10-1 by vessels that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. But humans had survived ice ages, world wars, and the hostile environment of space itself through one simple principle. They refused to give up. All ships, she broadcast to the defense fleet, prepare for battle. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to remain human. The first engagement between humans and Velathi took place near Jupiter's moons, where Admiral Wang had positioned her fleet using the giant planet's gravity, well as both shield and weapon. The Velathi bioships approached with the confidence of predators who had never faced effective resistance. Their organic hulls rippled with weapon systems that had conquered thousands of worlds. Captain Robert Chase commanded the destroyer Relentless, one of 12 human vessels facing 40 Velathi bioships. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Torres, analyzed enemy movements with the calm precision that marked humanity's best warriors. The aliens moved in perfect formation, their shared consciousness allowing coordination no human fleet could match. But humans had learned warfare in a different school. While the Velathi fought as a collective mind, human crews operated as independent units capable of rapid adaptation. When the aliens unleashed their bioplasma weapons, human ships scattered in random patterns that broke their enemies' targeting solutions. Chief Weapons Officer Paul Chen fired the first shots of humanity's galactic war. Kinetic penetrators launched from railguns struck Velathi bioships with devastating effect. The aliens, had evolved defenses against energy weapons and biological attacks, but solid projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed were something their living ships couldn't absorb or deflect. The bioship Eternal Growth shuddered as human projectiles punched through its organic armor. Admiral Corvin Zell felt pain ripple through the collective as one of their vessels experienced damage for the first time in centuries. The humans weren't trying to interface with Velathe technology or join their consciousness. They were simply trying to destroy them. Captain Maria Santos piloted the fighter squadron Hellhounds through the alien formation, her pilots following attack patterns that made no tactical sense to collective thinking. Human fighters, struck without warning, retreated before counterattack and regrouped in ways that confused the Velathe battle mind. The aliens adapted quickly, their bioships growing new defensive systems in real time. Living armor plates shifted to deflect kinetic attacks, while weapon clusters sprouted from previously smooth hulls. But adaptation took time, and humans specialized in exploiting those critical moments when enemies were vulnerable. Admiral Wang coordinated the battle from her command ship, using Jupiter's intense radiation field to mask her vessel's movements. The Terran Defender launched clouds of metallic chaff that interfered with Velathe biosensors, while torpedo spreads forced alien ships into predictable evasion patterns. Dr. Walsh monitored the engagement from Earth's military command center, analyzing Velathe technology in real time. The alien bioships were incredibly sophisticated, but they shared a crucial weakness. They were all connected to the same collective consciousness. Disrupting their communications network might be possible with the right electromagnetic pulse. The battle raged for 6 hours before the Velathe began to withdraw. They had lost 7 bioships to human attacks while destroying only 3 human vessels. For a species accustomed to effortless victory, this level of resistance was incomprehensible. Admiral Corvin Zell reluctantly ordered his fleet to retreat beyond Jupiter's orbit, to analyze human tactics and develop new strategies. Fleet Admiral Wang watched the alien withdrawal with grim satisfaction. Humanity had won its first engagement against galactic conquerors, but this was only the beginning. The Velathe would return with better tactics and more ships. Earth needed allies, weapons, and time to prepare for the war that would determine humanity's survival. Captain Steele, whose desperate escape had started this conflict, volunteered to lead reconnaissance missions into Velathe space. His crew had seen the enemy's true nature and understood what defeat would mean. The pioneer's dream, renamed the Freedom's Edge, would carry humanity's message to other species. The galaxy's oldest empire could be defeated. The age of human expansion was about to begin. Captain Steele's reconnaissance missions revealed a galaxy living in fear. The Freedom's Edge visited dozens of star systems, each one bearing scars from Velathe conquest. On the desert world of Kepler 442b, they found the Zerani people hiding in underground cities, their once proud civilization reduced to scattered. Survivors avoiding the bioships that periodically swept their skies. Commander Rachel Kim led the diplomatic team that made contact with Zerani leader Jorak 9. The insectoid being's compound eyes reflected centuries of defeat as he described how his people had once built crystal spires that reached toward the stars. Now they lived like vermin, afraid to show themselves above ground lest the collective notice their continued existence. "Your species fights the Velathe," Jorak 9 clicked in broken galactic standard. "This is madness. They are eternal. They are inevitable. All join the collective eventually." Engineer Tommy Martinez, now serving as Steele's second-in-command, studied Zerani technology with growing excitement. These people had developed energy shields decades before the Velathe arrived, but their defensive systems had been overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Human engineers could improve those shields, while Zerani knowledge could enhance human weapons. The alliance began with a simple exchange: human protection for Zerani technical expertise. Steele's ship carried Zerani refugees to a hidden base in the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter, where human engineers and alien scientists worked together for the first time. What they created would change the course of the war. Intelligence officer Janet Rivers discovered evidence of other, resistant species scattered across the galaxy. The Zephyrians had retreated to gas giant storms where Velathi bioships couldn't follow. The crystalline Moravex had withdrawn to high-radiation star systems that organic vessels avoided. Each species had found ways to survive, but none had been able to fight back effectively. Dr. Walsh's xenobiology team made breakthrough discoveries studying Velathi biosamples recovered from the Jupiter battle. The alien collective consciousness operated on specific neural frequencies that could potentially be disrupted by properly tuned electromagnetic weapons. If humans could build transmitters powerful enough, they might be able to sever individual bioships from the collective. On Earth, President Morrison announced the formation of the Terran Alliance, officially extending humanity's protection to any species willing to fight the Velathi. The response was overwhelming. Refugee ships began arriving at human outposts throughout the solar system, carrying survivors who had thought resistance was impossible. General Hayes expanded the human fleet using captured Velathi biomaterials and alien refugee expertise. New ship classes emerged from Earth's orbital shipyards, combining human engineering with the best technology from a dozen species. The hybrid vessels were ugly compared to elegant Velathi bioships, but they were designed for one purpose: winning the war. Admiral Wang established forward bases throughout the outer solar system, each one a fortress capable of independent operation. The Velathi would find no easy targets when they returned. Every human outpost was prepared to fight to the last person, and alien refugees fought alongside human defenders with the desperation of people who had nothing left to lose. The underground resistance network grew rapidly as word spread through hidden communication channels. Species that had hidden from the Velathi for centuries began sharing intelligence and resources. Ancient trade routes were reopened for the first time in millennia, carrying weapons and supplies to resistant cells throughout the galaxy. Captain Steele's growing fleet of reconnaissance vessels mapped Velathi territory, identifying weaknesses in their seemingly impregnable empire. The collective controlled hundreds of worlds, but their bioships needed regular return to breeding worlds for maintenance and reproduction. Those breeding worlds were heavily defended, but represented critical vulnerabilities. Admiral Corvin Zell felt disturbance ripple through the collective as reports arrived from across Velathi space. These humans were not simply defending their territory. They were actively recruiting other species to join their resistance. This had never happened before. Conquered peoples were supposed to accept absorption into the collective, not organize opposition to it. The Velathi began mobilizing the largest fleet in their history, calling bioships from every corner of their empire. If these humans wanted war, they would face the full might of 8,000 years of accumulated power. The collective would demonstrate why resistance had always been futile, but humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. The Terran Alliance included dozens of species, each contributing unique capabilities to the growing resistance. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin in earnest. The Second Battle of Sol began with a Velathi armada that darkened space itself. 300 bioships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their living hulls pulsing with weapons that had shattered entire civilizations. Admiral Corvin Zell commanded from the massive bioship Infinite Dominion, confident that overwhelming force would finally crush human resistance. Fleet Admiral Wang met them with the largest human fleet ever assembled. 200 ships of the Terran Alliance faced the Velati Armada, their hulls bearing the colors of dozens of species united in common cause. The sleek Zephyrian windriders flew alongside bulky human dreadnoughts, while crystalline Moravec vessels provided long-range support from the outer system. The battle began with Dr. Walsh's electromagnetic pulse weapons transmitted from hidden installations throughout the solar system. The neural disruption waves struck the Velati fleet like invisible hammers, severing dozens of bioships from the collective consciousness. For the first time in their history, individual Velati found themselves alone in their own minds, confused and vulnerable. Captain Chase led the assault wing directly into the disrupted alien formation. Human ships poured kinetic fire into biovessels that were struggling to adapt without collective guidance. Zirani energy shields protected Alliance ships from Velathi counterattacks, while Moravec crystal arrays focused human weapons with devastating precision. Admiral Corvin Zell experienced something no Velathi had felt in millennia: genuine fear. His perfect fleet was being destroyed by a ragtag alliance of species his people had dismissed as primitive. The humans fought with individual initiative that collective thinking couldn't counter, while their alien allies contributed technologies the Velati had never encountered. The tide turned when Captain Steele led a desperate assault on the Infinite. Dominion itself, the Freedom's Edge, supported by a squadron of Zephyrian fighters, penetrated the bioship's organic defenses and delivered a neural disruptor directly to its core consciousness. The massive vessel convulsed as its collective mind fragmented, leaving thousands of individual Velati suddenly aware of their own mortality. Commander Kim broadcast the surrender terms across all frequencies as Velati bioships began withdrawing from the battle. The collective would release all absorbed species and recognize the territorial integrity of the Terran Alliance. Any Velati who chose individual consciousness over collective absorption would receive protection under Alliance law. The war ended not with conquest, but with liberation. Across the galaxy, species that had hidden in shadows for millennia emerged to join the Alliance. The Velati Empire fragmented as millions of individuals chose freedom over collective security. Some bioships continued to serve the old collective, but many were converted to peaceful purposes under Alliance oversight. President Morrison addressed the first Galactic Assembly from the lunar capital of New Geneva. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to establish laws protecting individual consciousness and species sovereignty. The Terran Empire was born not through conquest, but through the simple principle that every thinking being deserved the right to choose their own destiny. Admiral Wang commanded the Alliance fleet that now patrolled trade routes throughout known space. Former Velati bioships served alongside human vessels, their organic technology adapted for exploration and defense rather than conquest. The galaxy's oldest empire had become its newest democracy. Captain Steele accepted command of the Exploration Division, leading mixed crews of humans and former enemies into uncharted regions of space. The Freedom's Edge became the flagship of humanity's continuing mission, to seek out new life and civilizations, not as conquerors, but as partners in the ongoing adventure of existence. The Velati, who chose individual consciousness, found themselves struggling with concepts like personal identity and independent thought. Human counselors worked with Zirani philosophers and Moravec logicians to help former collective members adapt to freedom. It would take generations, but the galaxy's most ancient species were learning to be individuals. Dr. Walsh established the Galactic Institute on Earth, where scientists from every known species worked together to unlock the universe's remaining mysteries. The combination of human curiosity, Vellathi biotechnology, and alien expertise opened possibilities that no single species could have achieved alone. Humanity had wanted only to explore the stars and build new worlds for their children. Instead, they had accidentally founded an empire based not on domination, but on cooperation. The Terran Alliance grew larger every year as more species chose freedom over the security of collective thinking. The galaxy belonged to no single species now. It belonged to everyone. The end